Everyone, welcome to the CA3 Climate Action and Advocacy on the Airwaves podcast. My name is Simon Evans and I welcome you. This project was undertaken with the financial support of the University of Calgary's Mobilizing Alberta Climate Action Grant Program. We are broadcasting on 90.9 FM CJSW in Calgary. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region in Southern Alberta. The City of Calgary is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Districts 5 and 6. I hope you enjoy your time here on the airwaves as we dive into the world of climate action.
Close your eyes. Imagine yourself in your home as a relentless storm batters the outside world. You walk down the stairs to your basement, only to be greeted by the horrifying sight of an enormous amount of water creeping fast across the floor. Your heart beats in your chest like a frantic drumbeat, and panic sets in as you realize that your town is flooding. With each second, the murky water rises higher, threatening to devour all of your cherished memories stored in cardboard boxes. Your mind races with fear, unsure of where to start or how to stem the tide of this environmental assault. Suddenly, there's a knock at your door. A stranger is there telling you and your family that you must evacuate your home immediately. You only have a few minutes to gather a few belongings, then go to an unfamiliar location, not knowing what will happen to your home. Although the story may seem hypothetical or unbelievable, it happened to the residents of Canmore, Alberta, on June 19th, 2013, the day the 100-year flood returned. My name is Andrea Murphy, and I am a student of the Bachelor of Social Work at the University of Calgary. Human services has been a passion of mine since 2006. Since then, I practiced as an occupational physiotherapy assistant and worked in mental health services with a Bachelor of Community Rehabilitation and Disability Studies. I have witnessed the power social services can have when people and communities experience challenges and trauma of all kinds. Recently, I have taken an interest in evolving my practice and re-examine the relationship between human beings and the earth. Each year, we see the growing impact environmental emergencies are having on communities all over the world. These impacts can be devastating to people's mental health and ability to thrive. This desire to expand my scope of practice immediately drew me to the memories of the 100-year flood that hit Southern Alberta in 2013. When the flooding began, I was living in the city of Calgary, Alberta, 100 kilometers away from Canmore. That day, I looked out my window and stared at the rain falling for hours and hours. I thought to myself, wow, for a dry climate, this is a lot of rain. It was astonishing. News reports began to come in announcing the closure of downtown Calgary as 100 millimeters of rain fell upon Southern Alberta. As this happened, the mountains of Canmore grew angry, dissolving a heavy spring snowpack and unleashing a torrent of water and debris that tore apart homes and highways. At 11 p.m., the town of Canmore engineer walked into the council chambers, his eyes wide, clothing soaked and dirty. The only words that came from his mouth were, "We have to evacuate." It took a few moments for the other council members to understand what this meant, as they looked at their phones filled with text messages from friends and family members. It wasn't just a road or a field that was flooded. The highway and train line were underwater. The environmental emergency was geographically overwhelming for Canmore, but the impact of the physical, social, and mental stress on the community was unanticipated and ill-prepared for. Now, as a Canmore resident, I find myself reflecting on the floods, but this time as a community member. The town of Canmore responded to the disaster with a flood mitigation plan to help lessen the impact of future flooding. Now, 11 years later, $49 million government-funded dollars have been sunk into this plan, which is 4 years behind completion, while the Canmore community still lacks the support they need to anticipate a future emergency. I ask myself, how has Canmore implemented a sustainable plan to support its community members for when another environmental emergency occurs? If this plan exists, how does the community have confidence in it? I had the opportunity to speak to one of the town of Canmore councillors who states that even though we're more than 10 years past the 2013 floods, he feels that the town's resilience against a future flood is only at 70%. To truly be prepared for the next emergency, he believes that the flood mitigation project needs to be completed. However, Canmore is still waiting for additional funding from the federal and provincial governments. He also feels that the town's technical notification system needs to be improved, and the people must have faith in it. He also stated that there are limitations for what the town of Canmore can do, since people's perceptions of environmental emergencies are focused on the type of emergency happening now versus the greater culprit, climate change. He explained that right now, people of Canmore are mostly focused on forest fire prevention. In the past 7 years, Canmore has been on alert for forest fires, and there has been a lot of media attention on the topic. No one has been speaking about or worrying about floods. It seems that people are constantly changing their focus to different types of hot topic climate disasters and are not considering the idea to target the root cause, climate change. A community's resilience is only as good as its knowledge and awareness about climate action. A community can have extensive emergency plans and provide their residents with every support imaginable. But if we cannot understand how our environment is changing and how we need to adapt, a community can never truly be prepared or recover. Canmore, Alberta was the first community to feel the impact of the extensive flooding causing billions of dollars of damage to Southern Alberta. I had the opportunity to speak with the residents of Canmore 10 years later to explore what the experience of an environmental emergency was like for them. So many residents reflected on the memories, using words like hopelessness, despair, fear, anger, resilience, and determination. One couple felt gutted and their spirit taken away as they paid their final mortgage payment the same day the rising water penetrated their home, forcing them to evacuate. Among all the fascinating stories I heard, 2 stood out for me. A young man from Bragg Creek recalls the town coming together at one of the sports fields, not affected by the rising water. The local grocery stores and restaurants set up barbecues to feed everyone who could not stay in their homes. Despite their efforts to conceal their emotions, the children felt tension from parents who were unsure if they would have a home to go back to. People were tired and hungry from stacking sandbags and removing valuables from their homes. The young man said that despite any negative history neighbors may have had with each other, it was pushed aside. He said that even as a child, he appreciated how the community members supported each other and understood that what was happening was bigger than any disagreement they may have had with one another. A Canmore resident recalls the Canada Day parade after the flood devastated the town. Although the relief efforts were still in full force, Canmore residents had no doubt that the time-honored tradition would still take place. Just 10 days after the floods wreaked havoc on the area, the celebration provided not just a sense of relief, but also an opportunity to acknowledge all those who dedicated countless hours to the recovery. First responders, EMS, contractors, and service professionals who helped spare the community from the full brunt of the flood walked in unison along the Canmore streets as the entire crowd rose to their feet in applause. It was a proud and reassuring moment to see the community supporting everyone despite the damage and the destruction. Next, I looked to a leader in social sciences to explore an effective theory that can be applied to disaster relief. I immediately encountered the work of Dr. Lena Dominelli, who pioneered the term green social work. The idea of green social work is to unite social work practice and environmental issues while combining environmental and social justice. The goal here is to achieve social policy so that social services can be transformed to benefit both humanity and the environment. It is important for green social workers to not only address the needs of the community, but also the needs of the environment for future generations. In 2010, the Council of Social Work Education declared sustainability as the #1 social justice issue of the new century. Since this announcement, the concept of green social work has been growing in popularity and being discussed in a very serious way. The trauma a community experiences from an environmental emergency has a very serious impact on that community's mental health and ability to recover. Marginalized communities especially struggle as they often lack the knowledge or accessibility to the resources they need. Okay, so we see why changing our social lens to a shade of green is important. But where do social workers come into play? What difference can they make? The role of a social worker is to provoke change, prioritize equality, and transform systems that encourage social inclusion and well-being. But what does this have to do with the environment? Climate change and disasters have been proven to deepen the social inequities that already exist as our Earth changes. Therefore, our social response must change as well. We can do this by developing new partnerships and engage with local communities to create innovative ways to strengthen the human-environment collective. The fascinating thing about green social work is that it's present on all 3 levels of social services. At the macro level, where systemic issues affect large groups or entire communities, social workers can be seen advocating for better environmental policy and addressing environmental injustices. At the meso level, where services are being rendered to local or small communities such as schools and neighborhoods, social workers can help build climate action by improving coping strategies and preparing for future emergencies. Finally, at the micro level, where social workers work directly with individuals and families, social workers can be seen applying their case management and counseling skills, supporting the diverse and unique needs of their clients. Still confused? That's okay. Let's take all of this theory and see how we can apply it to a real-life scenario. A fantastic example of green social work being applied is during the 2013 floods, but not in Canmore, Alberta, in another town called High River. High River, Alberta was also affected by the floods, but on a much greater scale than Canmore, simply due to its geographical location. Within 15 hours, the flood hit the town of High River at a catastrophic level, as it became the worst affected area within Southern Alberta. Television news footage showed people waist-deep in water, walking down the road, searching for help and loved ones. This level of trauma was unimaginable, as severe psychological effects impacted this community. We can appreciate how terrible this emergency was for High River, but how was the concept of green social work applied to their recovery? As a result of the 2013 floods, the Alberta Resilient Communities Research Project, also known as ARC, was created and asked members of the rural communities about their mental health and well-being when experiencing environmental disasters. It also investigated their successes and ways they built resilience post-emergency. The findings of this research project discovered that a strong support system offsets the negative impacts caused by disaster. Collaborating with individuals affected and the needs of their community empowers people to build on their strengths and create a recovery plan tailored to their culture. When a plan is customized, it is more likely to sustain for many years into the future and for the next environmental emergency the community may experience. This ARC project is an example of how social workers can practice in a green way, changing policies to support communities while decreasing stigma others may have due to false information or assumptions. Stigma is another major barrier that communities face when trying to access services, since assumptions can be made of what this community needs or how they feel. To reduce stigma, social workers can be the voice the community lacks, informing the outside population of what they are experiencing. People are experts of their own trauma and need the space to work through their pain and achieve recovery. Now, you're probably thinking, these are all fantastic ideas, but most social workers do not have the opportunity or access to make systemic changes. Most social workers, in fact, work at the micro level with individuals and families. What can a social worker do at this level to impact change with a green perspective? To explain a green social worker's impact at a micro level, we stay with the town of High River, but this time we go to a school-based program called Hearts and Minds. In 2019, Dr. Nasreen Lalani and Dr. Julie Drolet conducted a study investigating the impact the 2013 floods had on High River. During their research, they discovered that the Hearts and Minds program was developed through a collaboration between government services, Alberta Health Services, and the High River school districts. The developers of this program worked closely with family therapists and school staff to create a program that identified the mental health needs of children and youths after the flood. The trauma from the flood was very scary for many children. They were feeding off the fear and anger of their parents while trying to understand such a complex situation. This program was based on a social work theory called a strength-based approach. The strength-based approach works on a client's strengths, attributes, and competencies to develop a plan that empowers the individual to be catalysts of their own change and recovery. The Hearts and Minds program created a safe space for children to talk about difficult conversations, concerns with their parents, and other hardships. It also allowed them to speak with professionals who have skills and resources that are appropriate for them and their families. Many times, clients are desperate for services but simply don't know how to reach out and ask for them. This is where social work shines. The Hearts and Minds program consisted of different types of interventions, such as meditation, one-on-one mentoring, and skills-building education. It takes out-of-box methods such as music, art, writing, and physical activity and builds resilience in children, despite the trauma that they are facing. The residents of High River expressed how grateful they were for the Hearts and Minds program. The program is inclusive and it speaks to the diversity of each participant. Of course, with every successful school program comes its roadblock. As powerful and important social services are to Canadians, they are regulated by the funds available to sustain them. The High River residents expressed fear and worry for the Hearts and Minds program being discontinued if the funds and resources from the government and other agencies are diminished. For a community like High River to achieve full recovery from environmental disasters, funding must be present and the decision makers in government must agree to its necessity in the short and long term. Now that we've explored the ways High River responded to the 2013 floods, let's revisit Canmore. The town of Canmore is currently working on a climate emergency action plan to help respond to climate change. This plan will cover ways to reduce the effects of climate change and strategies to address vulnerabilities and build resilience. The Climate Emergency Action Plan will be a guiding document for the next 6 to 10 years, empowering the town to take actions that benefit the community and prepare for climate change. The focus here is to create a healthier, more resilient, and enjoyable community for years to come. The town of Canmore is taking a strong initiative to anticipate the environmental needs of the community. But how can Canmore prepare for the social impact a future disaster will have? I propose that Canmore creates a program with human service agencies such as Bow Valley Primary Care Network and the Bow Valley Schools, perhaps called the Canmore Disaster Recovery Hub. This is an opportunity for clients to express the challenges and receive support due to environmental emergencies. This program can be advertised on the local radio, at town events, and at schools. Often people want to utilize resources but don't know where or how to access them. These sites will be stocked and prepared with takeaway resources and contacts to set the client up with support immediately. If the client consents, their contact information can be collected so human service providers can follow up with them to check on their progress. Indigenous people also possess invaluable knowledge when it comes to understanding and combating climate change, as they are rooted in centuries of closely living with and observing nature. Indigenous people offer unique insights into sustainable living practices and how to use natural resources without depleting them. For instance, traditional agricultural techniques such as polycultural farming and agroforestry enhance biodiversity but also improve soil health. Carbon sequestration offers lessons in how to mitigate climate change and recirculate resources. The method of controlled burns is used to reduce the severity of wildfires and is originally an Indigenous practice. Modern science has acknowledged that this method is effective in maintaining ecosystem health. By integrating Indigenous knowledge with contemporary science, we can develop more holistic and effective strategies to address the global challenge of climate change. This proves that these ancient practices hold key lessons for the world's sustainability efforts. The colonialism that has been present in Canada for hundreds of years has caused environmental degradation, the spread of disease, economic instability, ethnic rivalries, and human rights violations. The Indigenous Climate Action, or ICA, is an organization led by Indigenous people who hold valuable knowledge and protect water sources while defending the land in various communities nationwide. The ICA strongly believe that Indigenous people's rights and knowledge are essential in addressing the climate crisis and achieving climate justice. The ICA focuses on empowering Indigenous communities to take the lead in finding solutions to climate change both now and in the future. The ICA's approach is rooted in providing communities with the tools and information needed to cultivate a new wave of Indigenous climate leaders who prioritize their rights and cultures in their solutions. The ICA is in early stages of a research project investigating ways of how Canada can decolonize by examining the flaws and challenges in Canadian climate policy. It aims to foster climate policies led by Indigenous communities. These policies will not only address the concerns of Indigenous peoples, but also empower them to develop their own solutions to climate change. Rebecca Sinclair, originally from the Barren Lands First Nation, Treaty 5, and a member of Little Saskatchewan First Nation, completed a case study focusing on the way Canada's climate policy is falling short in terms of establishing meaningful connections with Indigenous communities and integrating their knowledge. Rebecca believes that to address climate action in Canada, the answer lies in reconciliation between Indigenous communities and the colonial land residents. Although the future is strained with past failures, reconciliation can demonstrate the positive influence a collection of initiatives and balance of ideas can have on Canada's relationship with its climate. Thanks to my studies and research, I'm immersed in amazing theories and ideas demonstrating the power social work can have. But many times, I feel powerless and uncertain of what lies in the future. Brilliant minds continue to work hard trying to better systems and improve resources, but we still lack the funding to implement their solutions. I begin to wonder what can be done. There is a significant and obvious power imbalance between the decision makers of our government and marginalized communities. It is astonishing to think how a vulnerable population survives. So I reflect and dig deep and try to find answers to how humans can fight back and achieve social justice. Then, I'm reminded of a powerful phrase that was present all along: community resilience. When I think about community resilience, I imagine a beacon of hope, a tapestry woven with the threads of unity and strength. Members find solace in the power of their collective narrative, crafting stories not of despair, but of triumph and laughter. Simple words become their fortress, shielding them against the storm of adversities. In their creative dialogues, solutions are born, and the fabric of the community grows more vibrant with each colorful word. And so, the community stands unwavering, a testament to the resilience woven by the hands of its own people. The power community resilience has is dependent on the trust community members have in their leaders. To build resilience, it's crucial to have community leaders who are trustworthy, empathetic, and transparent. By nurturing a sense of unity, leaders can assist their community in effectively and sustainably overcome challenging events and situations. When I tell people that I'm becoming a social worker, so many people take a step back and ask why this is a profession I'm drawn to. They instantly see this line of work as being difficult and traumatizing and can't understand why I have an interest in it. Answering their question is quite simple for me. Human beings are survivors. They embody such strength and drive. When given the proper support and encouragement, they are unstoppable and inspirational. The past 100 years are a fantastic example of how far humans have come despite the adversities they have faced. It is time for humans to take the next step and reconnect with the foundation of their life force. Humans are interdependent on the land they reside on as it provides their food, shelter, and other needs to sustain life. It is time to take the next step in human evolution and collaborate with the true expert of sustainability, adaptability, and transformation. It is time to repair our relationship with Mother Earth.
Thank you for listening to the Climate Action and Advocacy on the Airwaves. We hope you enjoyed your time here. This project was undertaken with the financial support of the University of Calgary's Mobilizing Alberta Climate Action Grant Program. We are broadcasting on 90.9 FM CJSW in Calgary. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region in Southern Alberta. The City of Calgary is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Districts 5 and 6. Thank you, and I hope to catch you on the airwaves soon.